As someone who loves the original Resident Evil games and of course the first Silent Hill, I immediately was drawn to the game back in 1995, and now that it's made its way over to the PlayStation 4, I finally got a chance to play it. But is this one a terrific throwback, or is this nostalgia trip a nightmare? Back in 1995 is a survival horror game that takes a lot of influence from the 5th generation of games. Whether it be Alone in the Dark, Resident Evil, or Silent Hill, you'll see all that kind of influence throughout this relatively short journey. The gameplay is similar to those titles where you're going to be going around dealing with monsters, limited ammo, limited health items, and solving a variety of puzzles in order to make it through areas. Control-wise, the game uses tank controls, and while it's something I'm very familiar with, it is ridiculously stiff here. Attacking and doing anything in this game feels like you're moving through molasses. It was something that I was able to adapt to relatively quickly, being someone who's played a ton of these types of games before, but if you're new coming into this style of control scheme, you may just end up getting frustrated with it. The game is chapter-based, and each area that you go to for the chapters have kind of like their own puzzle or main thing going on in it, so once you figure that out and solve it, you'll be moving on to the next. If you try to go down a hallway that you're not supposed to yet, the game does turn you around, so I never found myself getting lost or stuck for more than just a few moments. Another big part of the gameplay is the combat, which is just as slow and clunky as anything else. Thankfully, the monsters themselves, I was able to kind of learn to cheap them as far as hitting them. You can actually hit them through walls, you can just kind of back away from them a lot of times and deliver damage, and because they attack usually pretty slowly, you usually can get out of the way of the attack even though you also move exceptionally slow. There's also, thankfully, a decent amount of health items with plenty of save opportunities, so really, I never had any moment where I felt like I needed to conserve supplies for fear of getting stuck. The game does feature a story, but it left a lot to be desired. It's just kind of there. You're playing as a character named Kent, and you start off on the roof of a building, you're trying to get to a tower in the distance. There's a little bit more that ends up playing out, and there's some other messages going on with nostalgia, but for the most part it's just kind of there without really anything meaty to grab onto. That may just be because the game is pretty short. It took me less than 2 hours in order to beat it, and that was without any sort of guide. If you're someone who's less familiar with survival horror games and games with tank controls, it may take you a bit longer, but I honestly can't see it taking more than 3 hours. There is a bit of replayability. The game does include multiple endings, so if you do end up enjoying it, there is a bit to entice you to keep playing. From the technical side of things, I didn't run into any major glitching or crashing of any sort. Back in 1995 is available on the PlayStation 4 for $9.99, and it does feature a Platinum Trophy. It's also available on the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PC. Overall, back in 1995 was one of those games I really wanted to enjoy more than I ended up doing so. The game's controls and everything, while yes, it's mimicking that tank control style, it's doing so pretty poorly. A lot of the things that it's trying to do out of nostalgia, it doesn't do so well. There's a lot of times just little textures, sound design, and the like that just ended up taking me out of the experience. With everything said, I'm going to be giving back in 1995 a 5 out of 10. That's going to wrap up this review though. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.